oil, so it's May 2022, and I'm going to be fitting a disc brake kit, just a front kit, you know, to this particular C5. So basically, you know, you can see here it's obviously not original. It goes incredibly well though, this C5 does. It's just you know, just a bit of more of a beta C5, I would say, just for getting in and going for it. But yes, it runs absolutely spot on. So I turn the camera that way. So rather than getting the stand out and all that sort of stuff, you know, there's no need. What I do is just rest it up gently against the wall here. It's not a difficult job, this one. 10mm here. Just undo the brake caliper, which is there. So in a second, that should pop off on there. So off comes these brakes. Honestly, when you compare these brakes to disc brakes, these are, I know I said it before, these are basically super poor compared to disc brakes. Obviously, if they're, you know, if they've got, you know, maybe new shoes on them, you know, and the material here is good, and once they sort of bed in, you know, they're sort of average, you know, 3 or 4 out of 10, I would personally say. But then you fit the disc brake kit, it looks much nicer, and it stops absolutely on the button, super light. So yeah, that's the one that's going to come off in a second. I'll take this off, give it a good old clean and all that. I'll also clean up the do the grease and the bearings. Pan round here, got disc brake kit, so I've got a rear kit and a front kit. I'm only fitting the front kit on this particular C5. That's for one of my projects at some point. So yeah, here we go. So in there's a couple of cables. Obviously just need one caliper, caliper bracket, the disc of course, some nuts and bolts. There's more bolts in there, so with these little spacers on here, and of course the polycarbon sort of spacer as well that goes on there, supports it all. So yep, I'm gonna crack on now. And by the way, thanks Jon Webster. I mean, everyone knows it's Jon Webster. Everyone knows by now he is the master. So yeah, thank you Jon. Here's the bits. Gonna go on this rough and ready C5. Cool. Right, up next up is just to basically remove the spindle, clean it all up using a combination of like white spirit and also things like brake cleaner, work really well. Clean it all up and put in some new grease. I just like to use this stuff here, works really well. All you need is something like this, a thin spanner. This is a Sinclair C5 toolkit spanner. That plus a 15mm spanner as well to hold it and to lock it back in place. Really easy, like 5-minute job pretty much. Cool. Right, now to fit the disc to that. Right, so next up is to drill the holes. So what I do is I use a small 3mm first to do a pilot hole in the correct position around here, and then go through this one here, which is apparently a 4mm according to that. And then this piece here ultimately then slots over the top, and obviously make sure the disc is going in the correct direction for it. And that then basically plops onto there, and then you can put the bolts, so then you put the spacers in between. Just basically poke them in there, you know, literally just drop them in and poke them in with a screwdriver so they're in the right position. Then you can put the bolt through. That kind of gist. It's really easy. Yep, let me crack on with that now then. Cool. Yep, so that's nice and easy. So for this, say you want to drill out the holes, put one bolt through, and then from this side here, you then just put the spacer through this side here onto the bolt, and then obviously then push the bolt through the hole you've made. Then go round, so do the spacers on each of these ones, push them all through, and then you can put the nuts on. And all I do basically is you just get the nut, put the nut on here with your hold it in place with your finger, and I use an electric screwdriver with one of these bits here just to whiz it in. Super easy. Go around, do them all, and I say then if you want to finish it off with the Allen key to make sure that each one is even, that's fine. Just don't over crank it. There's no need to over tighten these things here. Just snug them all up, make sure you think they're all even. That way when you look down at the disc as well from here, you'll be able to see that the disc is nice and sort of flat and level, which it should be because you've got spacers, so it should all be fine. So just don't over crank it. So that's that done. I then just used a bit of brake cleaner on a rag just to wipe any fingerprints off that. Now it's time to get the caliper, etc., and the wheel back on, and the mount. Cool. Well, yep, so that's it basically. So yeah, put the clamp on. You have to sort of squeeze a little bit just to get the right angle on it. Put the bracket on just here, and then when you put it on, make sure that this bracket here is on the inside here. And all you do literally is you just pull it a tiny little bit, obviously just for additional bracket, a little bit there. You can use a screwdriver if you wanted to lever it there slightly, just enough to be able to get the wheel in. So once the wheel's in, you put the caliper on, so put it on loosely, and what I did for this one here is you have a look down the line here and see the top of the pad versus the spiky bits here, and obviously you do it there, and what you do is you can raise and lower the caliper by basically adding and removing spacers just in here on both sides. So what I did, I literally just removed the one spacer that was in there, just enough to drop the caliper down, you know, a few millimeters, in order for it to be optimal on here. And then technique I do, it seems to work well, is I then make sure these two here are loose on the top, there and there, then pull it to engage the pads with the disc, and then I also use my right hand with the Allen key to then tighten up these two here whilst I'm holding it tight in place, and that seems to centralise the disc with the pads, and then it's cool. Obviously I haven't adjusted the cable yet, but spins absolutely like a beaut. So what I'll do now is we've got the cable here, so normally it's on the opposite side. This cable is actually really long, so it actually fits perfectly onto this side, but normally if you have a standard cable, it's too short, so you normally have to replace this cable here as well with a new one, which is basically, you know, probably about that much longer, I would say, because of the different angle and different position of the caliper. But this one here is long enough anyway, so I didn't need to replace that one. So all I'm doing now is I'm just going to loosen off this, pull it in a little bit, just so that so the pads are just engaging the disc, and then tighten it, and then it's a case of just using it and bedding it in. It doesn't take long to bed in, so you probably find after a few runs you'll then need to sort of adjust it on here, or use the adjuster on here to do fine tuning on there. So that sort of thing there. Obviously with brakes, do any brakes at your own risk. This system here is way better than the originals, but obviously whenever you do any modifications you do, putting on kits, all that sort of stuff, make sure that you're happy to do it, make sure you're competent at doing all this sort of stuff. It's not difficult, but obviously the last thing you want to do is go down the hill and find that you haven't tightened up stuff and the whole thing falls off, and and you end up crashing. So be really careful of what you're doing with brakes, but done right, this kit is legendary. So thank you, Jon, for this particular kit. I'm going to adjust the cable now, take it out for some test drives, bed in a little bit. Happy days. Cool, thanks all. Oh yeah, and don't forget one of these. Nice. One of those comes in the kit. Cheers.